Hello and welcome to another edition of What's Out There. I'm your host, Robinson Edward Daring, and our guest today is best-selling author C.J. Ellison. C.J., welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving.
I did, ate a lot, just always. How about you?
Uh, yeah, I stuffed myself. Yes. Yeah, and of course the Patriots won. So, sorry, Jets fans. Just for the benefit of our listeners, I am going to tell them a little bit about uh, you. Okay, so if I say anything that's well, you'll be blushing, but they won't see it.
I was going to say, I don't think you know anything blush worthy, but okay.
Okay, C.J. Ellison. Well, she's a best-selling author of contemporary fantasy, erotica, middle grade fiction, and nonfiction. I believe that two of your pieces are under a pen name of C.J. Chen.
No, Stern.
Stern. Ooh, where do I
Hmm.
got that from? Okay, and now you used to be in real estate, but now you got into writing and you got your own company, and you live near D.C., Washington, D.C., with your husband, two children, a couple dogs, and a cat. Is that still correct?
Yes, it is. We also have two bearded dragons, which are lizards.
Okay, I write horror and science fiction. I just okay. Those are little lizards. I take it right.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll have to hit them with some radiation to make them big. Now it's kind of funny because when I say contemporary fantasy, erotica, nonfiction, and middle grade fiction, one of those descriptions doesn't seem to fit with the rest.
Yeah, I'd say, the second you mention that you write for children, people don't think that you could possibly write for children if you also write sex, and they seem to forget where children come from. So it really came about as I wanted something that my kids could read. My adult work is what sells, and that's obviously the bread and butter. But when your kids are so proud of what you do and they're so excited to tell everyone that their mom's a writer, but they can't read my work, that was what prompted me to write something for them.
Okay, and to be honest with you, down there, when I heard that you were writing a young adult novel, and to kind of quote, to kind of paraphrase Dennis Miller, I thought it was like the Disney effect. You go to that late night motel. You're tired, and you want to get some sleep, and then you turn on that adult channel, and then you feel so guilty afterwards. You dial up Disney to kind of cleanse yourself.
I've never heard that before. That's hysterical.
So it's like maybe you're writing young. You've written Vampire Vacation, you've written like Vanilla Dom and so forth, and now you're like, oh, I got to cleanse myself with a young adult novel,
Well, it's not young adult; it's middle grade. So
middle
it's
grade.
nine.
Excuse
It's
me.
the age group is supposed to be from 9 to 12 year olds, and the two heroes in the story are 12 year olds. So young adult is really more like the 16, 17, 18 year old
Ah,
uh, age group, where there's going to be more emotional and relationship aspects with the adventure, whereas mine is basically just an adventure. There's not going to be any romance aspects or any too much into deep emotional stuff. It's really just for the kids to have a good time and read a nice story, maybe have a moral or a value that comes across in it. But overall, it's just a nice way to tell a story for the kids.
yeah. It's the 9 to 12. That does sound more of a cleansing, but um, uh, I want to put it this way. Not even a first kiss on the cheek,
You
Valentine's Day
know,
card.
the story that I have planned doesn't have any of that in there. It's a fantasy story set in contemporary time frame where my kids were the ones that told me what they would like to see in the story, what elements they would like to have in it, and then it was me as the storyteller and the writer to somehow take the elements they wanted and to weave it into a cohesive plot. And I added more. And when I added more and talked to them about it, they were really excited. I haven't told them the end of the story yet because I want them to be able to read it. And I figured if I told them exactly how the story went, they wouldn't be surprised. But they understand the beginning. They know the characters. They have all the basic framework laid out. They're very excited about it.
That's really good. Is this gonna be like the first book in a series, or is this like you were just writing it to see if you could do it?
No, if I was really writing it for my children. I have no doubt whatsoever I can do it. You know, as a writer, that when you're first starting to write, I was learning so much about your voice. Everyone says like, oh well, your voice is really more suited for X, or your voice is said more suited for Y. They don't really tell you why they have these ideas. They just tell you what they think your voice is suited for. I had some friends that set out to write children's fiction, and as they were more involved with people who were helping them critique their work, they said your voice is really more suited for an adult novel, or for a mystery, or I guess they kind of coached them and pushed them into where they thought they should go. But I think that if you're a good writer, you could write anything. I know a very talented writer who started off writing sports commentary for newspapers and for articles, and the fiction that he writes is incredible. So I think that once you are a good writer, you can translate it into anything that really interests you.
Actually, I agree wholeheartedly down there. I'll have to meet that guy one day. Now, the nonfiction, one of the nonfiction works that wouldn't happen to be an autobiography, would it? Maybe like 50 Shades of Red.
No, and that almost sounds like a horror novel, doesn't it? 50 Shades of Red, almost as if a murder has taken place. But no, I haven't done anything autobiographical. I honestly, I'm sure, just like most people, I think my life would be pretty boring. I can't imagine anybody would want to read enough about my life after a few pages. They'd want to get back to something more really gritty and fun, like a suspense or a thriller or horror, and my life's none of those. But as far as what have I written that's nonfiction, it was more for industry, for craft and for writing and for other authors to learn what I've learned and to help people out as much as I could. I've been approached to teach some classes and to do some workshops, and that's what got me towards thinking, well, maybe what I need to do is start writing all this stuff down. All the experiences that I've gone through, how I've learned stuff from scratch, how I've taught myself or taken classes cheaply and learned what I need to learn on the fly. Those are the type of things that other people would want to know, and that's what I was going to put together into nonfiction work.
One thing I always wanted to know now, I know you used to be in the real estate industry, and you did at some point you did a little bit of what every position in that industry, but
Hmm.
did your writing start like well after that, or did you do any writing in the industry? Did they have you doing any articles or public relations puff pieces?
I never did any type of public relations pieces. Of course, when I was doing property management and I had to have rentals put up, or when I had my own real estate listings, there is some creative writing in there. You have to make sure that you're able to convey what the property is like creatively to really capture a buyer's or a renter's interest. So you do have to have a good grasp of the language. Of course, at that time frame, I always needed somebody to help me with proofreading because I was so horrible with punctuation and with understanding the rules. And I didn't mix words up like there, and there, or you're and your, but I definitely would mix things up where the comma would go or semicolon was needed. And I just felt that it was a little bit too far beyond what I needed to know for what my job was. But there was a time when I was a corporate trainer where I did have to write material that was nonfiction for a business setting when I was doing mortgage banking, and that was to train people. And it was really dry stuff. My God, it would put me to sleep, and I was the one writing it. It was awful.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry, that's funny. But I agree with you because when I even to this day I still have problems with the terms former and latter. They still throw me. And unfortunately, according to a lot of people, I still use adverbs a little too freely. And I'm not naming names. Hell,
The ly words need to be used sparingly, as Mr. King has told us.
yeah. Okay. All right. Because you can't use sparingly unless you say sparingly. So.
Good point. Touche.
Okay. We are coming up on our first break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask CJ about her most famous works so far, Vampire Vacation. All right. We will come back after the break and talk more with CJ Ellison.